So basically what we're going to do is we're going to remove this panel. We're going to measure from here over and from the top down to the window to find the location. Then we're going to take the trim ring and set it on top of the panel, cut it out, then reinstall the wall panel, and then slide the trim ring over the window. So let's get started. Okay, once you've removed the panel and marked on there with a Sharpie the distance from the L-track down and the distance from the L-track back, set the trim ring on there so that it's on there square. Take the Sharpie and on the outside, go around the whole outside edge. You see that I've got the mark on there. And that's the very minimum space that the trim ring needs to fit. But you remember you've got all this area under here that you can play with. So you've got quite a bit on each side to move the trim ring around. So I wouldn't cut on the inside of that because it won't fit, right? So you want to cut maybe 1/8 of an inch on the outside of it all the way around. Give yourself a little bit of room to wiggle this around. As long as you're not moving it more than almost an inch, the trim ring will still cover just fine. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim this out with a jigsaw. Okay, now the trim ring is fit into the panel. So now we'll go stick the panel back in the van and slide the trim ring in it, and it should cover over the window. Okay, so we've got the window trim put in. We've got all the L-track in and holding the wall panels firmly. So you'll notice that there's a gap here, 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 but no gap here. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure this distance, the gap here, measure the gap here, measure the gap here, and then we're going to draw lines on the back side on the jamb. And then we're going to cut off a little bit of the jamb on the back side so that it'll sit flush. So we don't need to cut anything here because it's perfectly flush. So we just need 3 dimensions, and then we'll mark it with a permanent marker and then cut it on the bandsaw. So after you've got your marks, I want to make sure that you write on here top so you know which side goes to the front of the top of the van. So what we need to cut off here, for instance, this is where our mark was, so we need to cut that much off the back, and maybe 1/4 of an inch more to give us a little bit of lee room. Perfect. And once the trim ring's in place, you can either fix it with a couple of screws, one on either side, or you can glue it in. If you glue it in, make sure you trim the fabric back a little bit, and don't use a lot of glue. This trim ring's been in this van for a month and hasn't vibrated out, so it doesn't take a whole lot to hold it in place. So trim the fabric back a little bit in a couple places, put a dab of PL 400 or something in there, and then just push the trim ring in place. If you decide to put the trim ring in with screws, really one on either end is about all you'll need. The advantage to doing it this way is that if you ever need to pull this panel off and you got the trim rings glued in, you're not going to be able to slide the panel forward and back. You'll have to peel the trim rings off or take all the L-track off it and pull the panel off directly. So it's probably not a bad idea. Not quite as clean, but it looks fine just to put one screw on either end.